go on, or is there more to this story than we could possibly know?
Yeah.
And I feel like there is.
Talking about the conspiracy theories, everyone's saying that the board of trustees at the University of Alabama, Tuscaloosa, Roll Tide, had something to do with this, because even as small as UAB could be, potentially taking away recruits, where if that is true, how petty is that? You are the University of Alabama.
Yep.
Why do you care about a small, proud school poaching away maybe 1 or 2 recruits a year? You're freaking Alabama.
Yep. If that has anything to do with it, that would be pretty upsetting, because that would be like Texas A&M dipping their hands into Texas A&M Kingsville, which is down by Corpus Christi in the middle of nowhere, and saying, oh, we're going to take your football program away because you're stealing some of our recruits. But the recruits aren't going to choose to go to Kingsville or UAB over the premier school. They're, I don't know. It seems very, very petty and upsetting.
And you got to think, a lot of these schools, I know the UAB only started their football program, I don't know the date in front of me, but it wasn't too long ago. But you do have to think, with this whole new power structure of the Power 5 conferences, that a lot of these smaller schools in smaller conferences potentially might fold or have to drop down to 1AA. I'm never going to call it FCS or FBS, whatever they call it.
Right.
Yeah. And it's just sad.
It is. I mean, these are people who are kind of on the bubble, and they get an opportunity somewhere, and I don't know. You just take away so much of their ability to be seen and potentially have a career beyond the college level. And it's kind of upsetting for those poor guys.
And plus, it's just players, staff, coaches, their families, local businesses, everyone who is just going to be hurt by this.
Yeah. So it's really, really devastating. And, I'd heard a lot about the football games were made up about 50% of student body and faculty, and the rest were people who lived in Birmingham who wanted, something to do with their family, and they would go to these games, and now that's being taken away. So it's just a bummer all the way around.
Another bummer all the way around was Michigan firing Brady Hoke. Writing was on the wall. Seems like a good guy, not the fit for Michigan. And the thing is, the whole Harbaugh thing is being thrown around. Les Miles' name as another Michigan man, even though the new Michigan AD has said that we need to throw out that whole Michigan man thing because it is played out. And
what does that
I
mean?
agree. Well, Michigan man was termed by Bo Schembechler back in the day, and is a term of endearment that a head coach needs to be a Michigan man, either come from the school or part of a staff that head coach at the school. And Lloyd Carr was a Michigan man. Brady Hoke was a Michigan man. Rich Rod, and not so much.
And
that was one of the big strikes against Rich Rodriguez, which I think was completely unfair to him, because every move that he made up there, we don't like this offense. We don't like your defense. We don't like the recruits type of players that you're bringing in. And they sabotaged Rich Rodriguez from the beginning. And I think it's so kismet, ironic, not even ironic, just justified that the day that Michigan fires the Brady Hoke, Rich Rodriguez wins Pac-12 Coach of the Year.
Yep.
Baby.
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of impressive. And the other thing about Brady Hoke, real quick, that besides, his coaching ability with the players that he recruited, apparently, was his voice. If I was a Michigan person and I had to listen to him speak, I would freak. His voice is the most grating voice of any coach I've ever heard.
No, Matt Foley, Van Down by the River.
Yeah, totally.
I am thrice divorced.
It goes from high pitch to, I don't know, I can't even describe it. Anyway, so yeah, Rich Rod wins Coach of the Year essentially, and they have to get rid of his replacement at Michigan because he's awful. And that's kind of funny whenever you see how they treated Rich Rodriguez up in Michigan. Also,
sticking the Big Ten coaching changes, Bo Pelini, kind of a surprise firing at Nebraska. Enter Mike Riley from Oregon State, who all around nice guy. You hear the wonderful stories, like his coaching staff is a family. I believe one of his assistant coaches donated a kidney to another assistant's wife. And you just get great stories like that from Mike Riley. Wasn't a great NFL head coach, but had done good things up there in Corvallis. But he's 61, not really an inspired hire. And you think if you're moving on from 9-win per year Bo Pelini and you hire another coach so quickly that you wouldn't want to make a big splash because Nebraska seems to think that they're still Nebraska.
And the question is, are they? I don't know that they are. I think they've just lost a lot of their recruiting ability, and they've not exceeded the expectations that had been set forth in fairly recent memory up there. And so, I can see being frustrated with Bo Pelini, and I'm thinking maybe there's some internal stuff that went on there because, it's not like they didn't experience some good wins that have potential. It's not like he did a horrible job. It just wasn't what they think the caliber of football should be in Nebraska. And every program thinks that. And so I feel like they're making, not every program, but a lot of programs who've experienced success and go through a period where they're not experiencing that success, they're looking for the next superstar. And so the competition to get a head coach that's capable of taking you back there it's huge. And the chances that Nebraska is going to land that guy or landed that guy who's going to take them back to the promised land over the Bo Pelini, it doesn't seem very realistic to me. I don't know. It feels like they took a huge chance, and I don't think it's going to pay off.
Yeah. Nebraska needs to realize that it's not 1997 anymore. This is not the Big Ten. And they're just not a national power anymore because back in the day, 70s, 80s, 90s, with Tom Osborne running the option, they could get high-profile recruits because not every single team played on national television. Nebraska was one of those teams. Not so much anymore.
Exactly. So they've lost a little bit of their athletic luster, I think, and I don't know that changing head coaches is going to be the answer to the program. But again, maybe there must have been something internal going on also.
It could be. But, if you're going to fire a head coach like this, like Bo Pelini, who had success, even though he rubbed people the wrong way, make a splash hire. Hire Scott Frost. Beloved alumni, offensive coordinator at Oregon, bring in young guy. He'd be very akin to a Cliff Kingsbury, even though that's not really working out on
I was about to say, they're not doing so hot, but that's okay.
Yeah. Or Nebraska should have gone after Jim McElwain, who we'll talk about real quick, or a Craig Boyle at Wyoming, who I have a lot of respect for what he did at NDSU. Someone up and coming rather than Mike Riley, who's had an established career, but it's much closer to the end than the beginning with him.
Right. Absolutely. I can't help but agree with what you're saying there.
Or they should have gone after Jerry Kill. In all honesty, a lot of Gopher fans up here were very afraid that Jerry Kill, who has been a coaching nomad in his career, as most coaches are, he's been at 4 different stops, I believe. He's coached at every different direction of Illinois, north, south, east, west, and they were afraid that Nebraska would try and poach him, especially since Gophers went down there and kicked some ass this year. And I don't know. Jerry Kill would have been a much better hire than Mike Riley, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, and if you're trying to return to some level of the glory that you experienced before, hiring somebody who probably at most will be there 10 years, I don't feel like that really instills that sort of dynasty feel that I think Nebraska is trying to re-attain. It just doesn't. So whatever, Nebraska.
And then real quick before we go to break, Colorado State's Jim McElwain, like we said, is the new head coach at Florida. This after 3 seasons at Colorado State, formerly offensive coordinator for Nick Saban at Alabama. He posted a 22-16 record at CSU, including going to a bowl game, winning the New Mexico Bowl last year. 10-2 record this year, headed to another very decent bowl. I think it was really awesome that Colorado State did not budge on his $7.5 million buyout and really held Florida's feet to the fire because, these coaches treat their contracts like toilet paper. And I really respect when a school puts their foot down and be like, no, this is the contract. This is what it says on the paper. Honor it or honor the terms of the buyout.
Right. Absolutely. And the fact of the matter is Florida, has come out and said that McElwain was someone they had targeted from the beginning. And, they just fell in love with what they think he's going to do for their program. And so Florida basically agreed to pay $3 million over 6 years to Florida State and agree to a future game in Gainesville with Florida State. So I found that part interesting. I didn't realize that those things were included in these sorts of negotiations.
You mean Colorado State?
That's what I meant to say. What did I say?
You said Florida State.
Oh, my bad. That was just a misstatement.
I was like, FSU and Florida going to play twice?
Yeah, no, stop. You know what I mean. But thanks for fixing it for me.
Speaking of fixing up, we're going to take a break so Claire can fix up her makeup a little bit and hit the head if she needs to. Claire-vs-Carlson Show, BRB. Millionaires are being made all season long at DraftKings.com, America's favorite one-week fantasy football site. 1 week fantasy means no season-long commitments. Play whenever you want.
Got a player who's hurt? No problem.
Injuries won't derail your shot at victory because it's like a new season every week, so you're never stuck with the same players.
Pick your team in minutes, and you could be on your way to winning huge cash.
This season, one listener turned $10 into $5,000. Another turned $2 into $10,000.
And a new millionaire has been crowned nearly every week this season at DraftKings.com.
You could be next. Imagine winning $1 million in one day just playing fantasy football at DraftKings.
Head over to DraftKings.com now and use promo code Spreaker to play free in the $10 million Fantasy Football World Championships. DraftKings.com, bigger events, bigger winnings, bigger millionaires. Enter Spreaker now at DraftKings.com. DraftKings.com, that is DraftKings.com.
And we're back for the second segment of the Claire-vs-Carlson Show. Your Friday night happy hour, singular, as Claire completely destroys the background noise because she's looking for her fingernail clippers and can't find them.
Hey, I'm chill, yo. I'm just mellow right now.
Also, Mello, is your fantasy football team. I'll give you 20 seconds. How about you brag?
Let's say 3 of my 5 teams are in the playoffs. You suck it, Carlson.
And Jay Cutler got you some points last night.
25. And I had DeMarco Murray on that team, too.
Yeah.
So, I got 52 points off of 2 players last night.
That sounds pretty good. 20 seconds up. 20 seconds for me. I have a new podcast called Football Convos, which will be a 5-day-a-week sit-down interview. Well, not really sitting down. Oh, they might be sitting down in audio form. Conversations with players, coaches, contributors that make the game of football great. Check it out. Launching January 5th. First interview will be Darren Nelson, College Football Hall of Fame inductee, former Stanford Cardinal, Viking, Charger. It's going to be awesome. I'm very excited about that. Launching January 5th. Footballconvos.com. Do it. And also on Twitter at footballconvos. One word. There you go.
That was not about fantasy football.
Whatevs. What's the deal with Manziel not starting? How heartbroken are you?
I'm not heartbroken because I don't lose college allegiance, but it's like, okay, they're in the NFL and this is what happens. But I do feel like the Browns coaching staff did something real questionable by taking Hoyer out and starting Manziel.
Hoyer was terrible, though.
But the controversy that surrounds Johnny Manziel being on the bench in the NFL.
Well, I think they were just throwing controversy aside because they were trying to win a very important game to help their playoff causes.
And they still lost.
And Johnny had flash of brilliance, but also took a nap when.
Yeah.
Did you see that? That was phenomenal. All right, so Manziel late in the game fumbles the ball through the end zone. He tries to jump on it, but cannot. And then he just takes a nap. Just lays down, corpse pose. It was awesome.